We are back. Hello.
Here we are. I was listening. I had my microphone muted, just so in case the puppies bark.
Yeah, it was my fault.
So it's like a rush to get it back. To flip the switch when you introduce me.
I had it on Do Not Disturb. That was from earlier while I was working, and I totally forgot to switch it over.
Yeah, when you don't do that, you don't get any noises that anybody's calling.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry about that, Richard, and welcome.
Oh, good. I thought it was me. I kept trying. It's like I couldn't get spit. But anyways.
Oh, we're glad you're here now. I'll tell you, Richard, when I chat with you, you make all my brain cells work. And for somebody to do that, I have to give you a little respect for that, because not too many people can do it. However, for the general audience that might actually find some of what you say overwhelming, if you can put the context in a matter where people can actually understand how it applies and why it's important in their lives, we may be able to gain a whole lot more ground and understanding here, because you've got some brilliant concepts, and you're involved in so many different things, which, interestingly enough, are all tied back into one simple concept of pretty much how everything works. And that's what I find. When you go back to the simplicity of it, it's like, yep, whatever formula that I was working on back in my chemistry days, it was like, let's use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. You got 30, 40 ingredients in there. Which one's giving you a problem? So you want to keep your formulations as simple as possible, yet achieve your end result. And whenever you start over-engineering or over-complicating a system, breakdown is sure to follow. But when you go back to the most simple understanding, it's Axum's razor. The most simple explanation, simple logical explanation must be the truth.
I know. The one thing about it is, I wish the people, okay, for some of the stuff I'm going to say, I wish they actually need the background for what I said last time around on some of it, unless I try to pull through, you know what I mean? Because there were things that needed to be said. I mean, it's such a wide body of work, okay?
Yeah.
And if you miss a step, you're kind of screwed, it's just the way it is. But we're going to try anyways. So some things I wanted to talk about this evening. Oh boy. See, one thing I did want to say, we talked about the Oort cloud, right? On the edge of the solar system, and all the different objects that were getting dragged through, and how eventually they'd end up impinging on the Earth, and then we went into the whole thing of the bad jobs of history, and we were talking about how they could, you could sinter the peat in the bogs, and that was the ability to give the armor of ancient times that was metallic. Okay?
Correct.
And that I didn't make at that time, which the reason why I'm bringing this up again, is that means that the solar system, when it gets hit, the sun gets hit, okay, I started to go into the whole idea of what iron does, okay, because it's the center of the fission-fusion curve, okay? What's happening is our sun is pulsing now, okay? And the reason it's pulsing is all of the metallic, the heavy metals, like I said, iron and above, are being absorbed into the sun that are striking it. And they're falling down through the sun's atmosphere in the body of the sun because they're the heaviest, so they're going to sink to the core. Okay, the way you get a nova, all right, now remember, all of these things from the Oort cloud, that big mass of iron nickel debris that's on the outside edge of the solar system, right, are put there. You have to understand, they're put there by novas. So the sun, what happens is the sun goes nova, collapses, because what happens is the gamma rays that cause the nuclear reactions with the hydrogen, helium, and if it doesn't have anything, it keeps going upscale until it hits iron, and then it basically goes boom. And we get the heavier metals because they're what happens when you get that, light speed kind of blast as it comes out as the sun disintegrates.
So what you're saying then is once upon a time our sun went nova, created
Right.
the Oort cloud all the way out, and as it collapsed back in, left all the gases and debris and whatnot, which formed the large giants and then the smaller rocky planets.
Cycled again, so it's
That's
cycled.
interesting.
Sure. So here we are. It's now what I've understood is that our sun won't go supernova for like billions of years, and what they're saying that there's not enough mass in the sun currently in order for it to do that. I don't know. I'm not an astronomer, and if it went supernova once, maybe there's not enough mass in it. I don't know.
Okay, well, remember, you have to have, the gammas can't get by the iron or heavier. That's the center of the, what do you call it, fusion fission curve. So what it is, okay, the time that you had the sunspot 1112, just prior to that, okay, every time they have a little something they don't want you to see, they take the SOHO and the rest of the satellites all offline. Okay, so the stereographic imaging and all that stuff is all put. Oh yeah, we're on maintenance mode right now. There was a Venus-sized strike on the backside of the sun. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
Yes. I've seen a lot of strange things going in, around, and through the sun here in the past year.
Yes, and most of that stuff, if it's coming from your cloud, it gets dislodged because remember, that's between us and the outside of the solar system, particularly around the ecliptic, which is the equator of the solar system, right? Okay, if that stuff ends up in the sun, right, which that's a bad thing because then it starts doing the Roomba. And
yeah, well, you're throwing iron into it, and iron is what you can't break down a star past iron. That's pretty much the end of the star's life.
Yes, and what happens is it also acts as a shield to reflect back in and concentrate the the gamma rays into the sun. Okay, which make the problem is it accelerates the curve of expansion of whatever's left in there as it tries to go up from hydrogen all the way up to it hits iron and then it goes pop. So when you saw a couple of weeks ago, people were talking about that, a chunk of the sun flew off.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you know why. So what it is this, okay, not to be too crass about it, the sun is puking. It can't eat this. So what it's trying to do is trying to do anything to get it out of there.
I see.
Nice.
So a chunk of the sun actually did.
Oh yeah.
Did come out. Okay.
Yeah, they actually showed that on the morning fake news. Interestingly enough, when it happened, it was like 2 days after it happened, and they said, "Oh, look at this." But you're okay. You know, they said it's an infrared picture of the sun, and the reason why you don't see this dark area is because the plasma blew off, but it's not coming toward us, so you don't have to worry. And it's cooler there, and it looks darker. Yeah, well, I guess that's a pretty damn big piece of the sun that blew off. It was at least a third of it.
Yeah, I seen that, and I thought, is that possible? Well, apparently, it is.
Oh yeah, but what I'm telling you is, I'm giving you the process by which it happened.
Okay.
That nobody, in other words, to my knowledge, the stuff I've been telling you doesn't exist in any of the books.
No, the only thing that you do is occasionally see anomalies from either stereo A or B or from SOHO, and it's like, what in the world's going on there? And then, like you say, all of a sudden, the satellites go down for maintenance.
Right, but sometimes you can pick up the art. Okay, what I was able to do way back when, except at the time I didn't think anything of it, and I didn't keep it. I make mistakes too. Okay, a lot of times there's artifacts that's left over. In other words, you won't believe it. They airbrush. No, it's true.
Really?
No. Oh, I know. It's
sacrilege.
Hard. Exactly. Yes, the high priest of NASA Bologna, bologna, salami, their mantra. Yes, I know. But anyways, okay, so this is what's basically going on, okay? There's more stuff to this, too. I got to think about what the heck I'm going to say here because, okay, we talked about last week that the sun is alive. And we went through the whole thing with Pele, and we talked about that, too, as to it being alive. And we went through the piece where they talk about the, what do you call it, talking to the sun, et cetera, which basically you can get a yes or no answer. Okay, which I'm going to do something. Oh, yeah, we also talked about the squaring of the circle, which is that thing I did. All right, so I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw some of that out there. Okay? And what it is, okay, you were talking about being, what do you call it, you're going to shut off your mics because you didn't want to hear the dog barking and the rest of it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, you got a dog, right? And you pat the dog, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you pat the dog on the top of the head, right?
Yeah, sometimes he doesn't like that too much.
Okay. Well, okay, is it fair to say that most people know what chakras are?
Yeah. Well, most people that would listen to this station probably would.
Okay. Okay, should I give an explanation or not as to what a chakra is?
No, just short, just for those who may not know, it would be better to be educated as opposed to not all of a sudden get lost in the conversation.
Oh, good. Okay. Human body is electrical in nature and has different fields that go with it. Okay? It's actually got the power of a small light bulb. Probably about 100, well, not that small, probably about 100 watts or so, depending. If you run, it gets more, you start doing the math, it gets a little interesting. Okay? And that's before you do anything funky. It's playing with your fields, etc. Okay, so you actually have some power there, and it's delivered by your food energy, etc. When you pat Doggy on the top of the head, you're patting his chakra. So basically what you're doing is you're bringing Doggy along spiritually. Furballs too. Nobody gets left behind.
Okay.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, well, it goes along with Scripture, so what can I say? It says all souls go back to God, and the qualification for that is it's got to have blood running through it somehow. So there you go.
Okay, so my point is, if the stars are alive, okay, and people I know that have been into the stuff as to doing the remote viewing, claim that there are multiple entities in the black holes in the center of the galaxy, etc. So they claim that they're alive, which I don't have that ability, by the way, so I'm taking other people's say-so. And some of the people I'm talking about, right, strangely enough, that's another story. I got actually tied to some people who had been involved in MK Ultra, but they were all under contract, and nobody knew that the other ones in the same group. They were actually sitting on stage. I figured out that they were all working on different aspects of the whole thing, because I knew a number of them. But anyways, they were all tied together. So, and they're the ones that are doing this whole thing, that they're also tied to the remote viewing, a lot of them. So, it turns out they happen to believe this, okay? And if you look at it, you have a continuity. Now, the universe, okay, is considered to be, it's got its dark side, it's got its white side. Both of them are considered to be God by a number of the religions. Okay? It turns out it's a duality. One of the things is the people who usurp a lot of the religions, which I won't go into any names, I won't mention Rome, I just won't mention a lot of them. Okay? They like to set it up their way. I also won't mention the different crown heads, which I don't know who any who do this, and other people actually control both sides of the game as to the good side and the bad side of this duality, as to what they show us in our religious institutions. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, there's this good and this bad thing that's going on. And one of the things I found out when I ended up working for McDonnell Douglas as a kid. When I was in my 20s, I spent a winter without winter down in Titusville, Florida. And I found out that the ancients believed that the stars, I got a hold of this book. I don't even remember the name of it, but what it was, it had all the names of the stars, translated from the Aramaic and the Hebrew, etc. Sanskrit, actually, it was. And they told a story. But the thing, I don't even remember most of the story, but it had a version and it had all the stuff that everybody talks about. It's about that. But the thing that I found most interesting about it was the variable stars were supposed to be the bad stars. And the ones that were constant were supposed to be the good stars. Okay?
So when you say variable, like, you know, this, when you look up at night, the ones that kind of twinkle or like pulsars?
No, the twinkling star is just atmospheric effects,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about they have a period where they pulse. Okay? Kind of like what these guys are trying to do with their sun right now.
There are pulsar stars that
right.
will pulse, and they're variable as far as their speed of pulsing, too. Some of them pulse at a phenomenally quick rate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things I found out was the people who believed this, strangely enough, there's a woman in the 1860s that wrote the book, which I'll have to get the name of it for at some point. Anyways, the people who believed this, okay, was one half of the book came from the court astrologer of Al Cid. The other one was Prince Henry the Navigator. Okay, so this is real old stuff. It was very interesting. All right, because they believed everything was alive. Okay, including their swords and everything. They attributed all sorts of magic to them. They used to put things, okay, like out in Worcester, Mass, there's a armory from the period. You go out there, and they write on their swords that this is my magical instrument, and I can go forward. It's kind of like just what you would hear from a Hobbit or something.
Yeah, when you go back into the ancient religions, such as the ancient Sumerians, the kingdom of Nimrod and Syrianus,
yes.
where this all gets its start, you find that they worshipped everything. They believed everything had a soul in it.
Yes.
So that's pretty much, yeah, exactly. So you could actually, have a sword made and then worship the entity of that sword, or your pet rock all of a sudden becomes your god.
Some people, that's true.
Yeah. Well, go look at all the idols in any Catholic church and tell me if they're made of stone or not.
There you go.
I understand. What I'm getting at is this. As you add energy to something, okay, as from your soul, you're imparting value of it into it.
Absolutely.
Okay, what it is, the universe, okay, that object, whatever the heck comes up in terms of consciousness. If you ever look at the scepter of Egypt, it's got the black and the white rings, and then it's got a gold ring in the middle of it, and it goes up into an obelisk. Okay, the reason they did that was because the different colors were the different levels of the knowledge of good and evil. And the gold ring was the consciousness where you arrived and you recognized the consciousness between knowing the difference between good and evil, which is right and wrong. Okay, what it is the universe expands as you come upscale and you bring more people upscale or entities upscale to fill more positions whereby they expand the universe. Okay?
Sure. Well, we already know that the universe, the whole multiverse is expanding. If the universe is expanding, then the rest of the multiverse is expanding too.
Yes and no. Because here's what it is. Okay. Now, what happens is, okay, you have a situation where we become the basis. Okay, if we make it up high enough, we become the basis of the insides of the stars and the planets. We become the plasma. Okay, like remember I told you about Pele?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, how it was alive because it had the it had the what do you call it? The museum right outside, which is the big volcano. It's 17 and change degrees out in Hawaii, which makes part of the what do you call it? The tetrahedron that holds this planet together. And we're supposed to have the body implicit in our body, supposed to be a tetrahedron. The planets happen. It keeps recurring.
Sure, it's part of torsion field physics. Well,
Right.
Anything that has it should be all bodies in motion would automatically have the torsion field around them, which essentially is the Merkaba or a tetrahedron. Right. And so anything that's alive that has a gravitational field that is got energy flowing through it is automatically going to have this same force field around them regardless.
Right. Okay, so what happens is, okay, as we come up, we get bigger and bigger positions where eventually we have the possibility of becoming the entity that's in the planet. Okay, you have to understand the power of these things. Like I came across a piece at one point, if you read the thing that I did over at interconnectednessofallthings.com, the Battle of Good and Evil, over there, what is it? I think it's the North or the South Pole. It has like 10 million amps. It's a ridiculous amount of horsepower. It's absurd. And it's all plasma, and it sticks way out into space. Okay? It's like that's another one. Okay, it turns out when the British were chasing unidentified submersible objects, they found there were 6 points that all of these things were going into based on their shipping around 1900, 1919. Okay, I can't think of the guy that wrote the book. He was tied to the original James Bond, which was Kelly and all that stuff. But anyway, okay, they found that these entities were in unstable areas of the crust and the ocean where there were these points that these things were going to. And these points are the same points. Some of them on land and some of them aren't. But what it is these entities hold the planet together. Okay, now, remember I talked about China, I talked about the dam, and I talked about the, let me finish that. What happens is, okay, if these entities come up and we get replaced by the entities that are coming up behind us, we graduate onto higher and higher realms. Okay? All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just, you said something which kind of sparked something in me, and I believe it's in Revelation, the 16th chapter. I was just actually looking for it here. But there's, let's see, it has to do with the four angels at the river Euphrates, which are untied. And this releases a big problem in the earth. So, you said something which is interesting. It falls into biblical prophecy. I was just looking for the exact verse with that symbol. Go ahead with your line of thought.
Okay, well, anyways, what happens is, okay, you ever hear the joke about the brain?
Which one?
Okay, this is the one where there's an argument between the brain and the posterior, so who's boss until the posterior clamps up.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard that one.
You understand where this is going, and all of a sudden the brain can't see straight, and it gets sick as a dog, and it finally surrenders to the rear end.
Yep.
Okay. It makes it the boss. That's kind of like what's going on here.
Yeah, because you have to say all the politicians are totally full of it, and so are the people that are ruling this world.
Yeah, but okay, we're going to get you there too. Okay, now, under the original setup, right, we're a cool little galaxy. We're cruising, and we're, doing the happy thing. Okay? And it turns out, finally, we run out of space to cruise. we come up against the Milky Way. Behind us, there's a couple of galaxies. Remember I said they fight it out in close quarters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Betelgeuse took it up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. Betelgeuse basically has a big problem, and it's basically in the process of exploding into a nova condition. It's about 450 light years away, and it went off in about as much period of time ago. So about, they figure, I forget how many years we're supposed to get the blast wave. Basically, we're in a bad place. Okay? What I said too was the reason December was so important was because we, as part of Sagittarius Minor, remember I said University of Massachusetts said that, okay, we're not part of the whole thing as to the Milky Way. We are the remnant of a collided galaxy that just slammed into and took a chunk out of the Milky Way. There's a couple of others that are coming in behind us to do battle, and we're part of the last remnant trying to limp away, if we can. Except we're locked in gravitational pull with, it turns out the largest field behind the sun, okay, and the galaxy behind us is the dog star. If you look
serious.
at it, you're going to, right? Yes.
You're serious about this. Sorry, I couldn't help that.
Wait a minute, okay, I'm going to give you a better joke than that one. I always kid that about, I can't stand the house cat, so I always kid, which of course is reptilian, I always kid about it recognize that dog is God spelled backwards, right? And therefore, it should lay its miserable carcass on the doggy dish to do something good for the world by making itself into dog food. But anyway, I'm a bad man, I know. But the point is this. The people who do this stuff like to put things backwards. In other words, the dog star is the God star for so you were asking me before where some of these people come from. Now, the dog star is where some of these people come from. Okay? That's part of the problem. All right. Now, what it is, okay, you ever listen to Crowley?
No. I know enough about Crowley not to listen to Crowley.
Okay, well, there's something that Crowley says and his people say that's they say two things that are very interesting. Okay? And for anybody that wants to go down the road, I think I can stop you right now. First thing they say is basically do what thou wilt. You ever heard that one before?
Yes, I have.
Am I on the money?
Yep. That's exactly what they do. When I say they, meaning those who are in power of this world, those who are ruling over it.
Yeah, but guess what? That's a one-shot deal because, okay, you know what they say after you get down the road and you've actually done what it is that they just said a second ago? Which I'm sure some people are going to love me for saying this.
I think you just lost me there.
After you've done what thou wilt, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, 1 second ago, it's history, and that's the end of it.
Right. And you don't have to worry about it anymore, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because no harm, no foul, you're not responsible for jack, right?
Even if I just caused a war, so.
It's all good, right?
Sure.
Cool. And, okay, now they got another phrase, right? You know what it is? You ever heard it?
Enlighten us.
Brothers to the end.
Brothers to the end?
Yep. Look it up. Think about it. You got snookered, baby. So what it is I can't get out, you can't get out of the game until we end the game. So what are we going to do?
End the game.
Right, and if that means we got to make everybody miserable.
Yeah, but the evil running things right now, they don't want to get out of the planet. As a matter of fact, I think some of them are robotic. I mean, look at Cheney. The guy's had more heart surgeries than anybody I know. I think he's like the Terminator. So they don't want to get out of this. Yeah, they want us out.
Okay, if I could say something here, I'm gonna what I've said already will make some people happy, I'm sure. Because you've probably never heard that before, but it's absolutely true when you start digging down. It is brothers to the end. Okay, now, what it is if you think you got nothing to lose, excuse me, you ever hear of something called the Keys of Enoch?
I haven't.
Okay.
I can't say that I've heard the Keys of Enoch, or I've read the Keys of Enoch. I've read the Book of Enoch.
I'm not talking about the Book of Enoch. I'm talking about there's a book called the Keys of Enoch.
No.
Hello?
Peter, you there?
Yeah, I've not read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not read it either. It was given to me, and they wanted it back almost immediately. Okay, I mean, within days. It was given to me by someone who was well placed. Okay? UN and other shit. Okay? In this book, these guys, they don't see that there's a way out of this. Okay? The reason that they want to do robotics and the rest of it is because they don't think that they can survive anything any other way. So it's last ditch, down and dirty, to the end of the court and beyond. They didn't expect to survive the thing we were talking about on 1112. And they still to this day don't understand why they survived. Okay? They have no idea why they survived. Actually, a couple of them they found out because of somebody I told something to. All right, so what it is if you don't think you can survive, right? All right, a couple of years ago now, I started talking to a gentleman and I was introduced to somebody, which I'm not going to mention the name. Okay. They were tied to this group who was tied to the gentleman that wrote that book. And they decided, they kept wanting to fly me down to Mexico. All expenses paid. Okay. They also wanted to know if I thought if I could make the Muslim problem go away. Okay. At the time, I didn't think I could. Okay.
But they started something. They want you to make it go away?
No. They thought, they were asking me they felt like they had a problem with the Muslims, so they didn't know what to do.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you have to understand, anytime you have a positive in this world, you have a negative. Anytime you have a negative, there's a positive. Anytime you have a wave, you push through the ether, whatever the heck you want to call it, okay, it also implies the reverse. Okay?
As above, so below, or as below, so above?
Well, look at it this way. Okay, if there's a Kaaba over in what do you call it, Saudi Arabia, someplace there's the verse of the Kaaba. If there's good, there's bad. If there's white, there's black. All right, so there's always reverse. You with me?
Yeah. You sound like you're cutting out just a little bit there. I don't know.
Absolutely. You're going in and out for some reason. I don't know whether it's on our end or your end.
It's probably me. I was pacing back and forth, and probably the battery's getting weak in this damn thing. It does that sometimes when it gets weak, but I'm actually nervous for what I'm talking about. I hope you can understand why, because, okay, all of a sudden I'm sure some people are listening.
Oh, yeah, they're always listening to us. Trust me. We've had our share of issues.
What I'm saying is, some of the stuff I say, you have to admit, is a little, you don't usually hear, right?
Oh, I agree.
Okay, so what it is these people, when you don't think you can do anything else, right, and you don't think you're going to survive on this level, you'll do whatever the heck it is to survive on whatever level you think you can survive at. All right?
Okay. Hence the 2045 initiative, where they believe that they can survive if they become robotic.
Exactly.
You're starting to understand what I'm talking about, yes. I don't know how to say this without saying it. I don't know if I should say it. You're right, but it's also the other. See, okay, remember I told you about the star wall that Hubble found at the edge, which I documented on the site, you know, what do you call it? Interconnectedness of all things in that piece that I wrote, The Battle of Good and Evil.
Yeah, you get out there and there's no more life.
Bottom line, yeah. So they're looking at that and they don't see a way out. Okay, now what it is they're answering to something that is not them. Now you asked me who the players were before. Remember you had that? You asked me that last conversation.
Yeah.
I figured out the players. You started to figure out that I really do figure things out. Yes.
Sooner or later.
Yeah.
You know, when you focus on it and you use just more than a common thought, usually you can uncover the answers to almost any question.
Right. Okay. Let's take a look at the Earth right now. We're going to move towards that thing because you have to see. You see why they're doing what they're doing?
Well, yeah. They're giving themselves some sort of a false hope, and they're also engineering the biological extermination of humans.
Right, but in the name of trying to save something, they're destroying everything.
Yeah, it's the way that they can become immortal.
Right, but they're not really immortal because they're no longer what they were because they're giving up their humanity in the process. But we're in agreement. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how you move the soul from a body to a machine.
Right, you can't, obviously. But you have to understand something, too. Okay, when these guys get together, one of the favorite places they love to go, you won't believe where it is. They love the, what do you call it, the Mexican-style pyramids and the rest of it. Which you've got to remember something. These people are like taking and chopping up like 100,000 people at a time to, pardon?
Well, we're just getting some really bad feedback here for some reason. But
Let me try the other phone. Is this better? I just put, maybe that one was dying.
Yep, that sounds a little bit better.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize the battery was obviously thinking about being someplace else. Anyways, where were we? Okay, what they love to do is they love to go to places that have had historical huge quantities of death in terms of human sacrifice.
Yeah, and so the Mayan ruins, you find some of the greatest ones. Their greatest sacrifice was, 24,000 people during one sacrificial ceremony?
Oh, 80,000 and some of them, the big ones, like the Temple of the Sun, 100 plus. Huge. Somebody actually did an experiment from doctors to see if it could actually be done in a day. It turns out, yep. That's not a joke, unfortunately. It's actually true. I happened to come across that and I almost crapped. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Freaked me out, let me say it that way. I mean, you know, but there's something I want to say about that too. See, what it is everybody's after the life force.
Loosh.
Huh?
It's called Loosh. Loosh.
Well, you know where the primary source of the life force is, right?
Well, I believe I do. Yeah, okay.
It's the heart. Do you know why?
Because if that stops pumping, your soul is leaving.
No, that isn't why.
Okay.
It's the ATP-PTP, which is inherent in the mitochondrial DNA, which is inherent is the battery of the human being, and it's put forth in the mother's DNA, which is the difference between the races.
So it's essentially like the battery.
It is the battery.
Okay.
It's exactly what it is. But there's
interesting.
Different forms
okay.
of it. Pardon?
I just said interesting.
This is my research. The stuff, I don't know if you realize it, the stuff that I'm telling you, you can't get anyplace else. Sorry.
Some of it I have come across. A lot of it I have not.
No, I've never seen it anyplace, but whatever. Anyways, okay. So what it is, okay. They can't get the direct force themselves, so they have to do it. What do you want to call it? Obliquely. That's why, okay, the forbidden fruit is humanity in the Bible. That's what it is. In other words, you're not supposed to eat, in particular, the heart, because the heart is the basis of the godhood within man. And that's where they're trying to drive us.
When you say they're trying to drive us, you mean in which direction? Toward extinction?
If you irradiate this human food supply, okay. Now, I said I was going to say where the heck the little buggers are and who they are.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Saturn, the moon Titan. Okay, if you take this world and, like, on the South Pole, there's a huge, huge, huge deposit of methane. Okay, and we got a fair amount of nitrogen. And if you get rid of the oxygen and turn it into CO2 by burning, which is if you take the what do you call it, Mississippi Valley watershed, whatever you want to call it, and that little lovely thing that they did down there in Louisiana, which they did not go away, particularly with earthquakes coming and fracking and the rest of it, which they're basically loosening up everything they can to make a mess, right?
That's right.
If you get hit with CMEs, et cetera, which ignite that once that thing opens up, right, you're going to have CO2, and that whole thing is going to burn off a chunk of the atmosphere all over the place.
Well, I'll tell you what else will, is all these nuclear power plants going down. If we had a CME, that'd probably be the eliminator right there.
Well, yes, as well. But okay, I'm going to get you by some of that. Right? Here's what it is. If you take all of that, right, you've changed the atmosphere. Because of the stuff that's melting out there in the South Pole, there's a huge deposit of methane under there. Huge. Okay?
There's supposed to be one in the North Pole, which is boiling off as we speak.
If that happens, you have no atmosphere. This is why, okay, some of the stuff I'm trying to do now, I need help. I am seriously, okay, I can do things, but I need teams to do stuff. I can stop. The people who want it all to end, okay, who they think is coming isn't who's coming. They're out of their gourds. All right? And I mean, it is really, and the ones who want it, if they get what they want, they're not going to want it because they're going to live in hell. And what they're doing right now is they're creating hell. Okay?
No argument here.
Pardon?
I say no argument here.
Okay. Anyway, so part of what it is, okay, you can, let me say who it is. If you take the atmosphere that they're putting together, okay, you end up with Titan.
Yeah, which is all methane.
You looked up.
No, well, I knew that.
Yeah, and guess what? It has.
Besides methane and a lot of explosions on it. You mean in its own atmosphere?
Yeah. It also has lakes of oil.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. I actually seen something. I seen a video on that not too long ago. Yeah.
Boy, nice place to be if you're a Rockefeller.
And it's got ammonia in there that can take the temperature of water down to what do you call it? There's a couple hundred degrees C. And what else does it have? Okay, and it's got trace amounts of CO2. If you take what's happening to this Earth, right, start looking at Titan, and you got what it is that you should really be looking at. But it's got one other thing it's the ultimate ingredient. Do you know what it was? You know what it is? And this is my work. Nobody has put this up. Nobody.
Tell us.
Guess what it's got? Pardon?
I say, what has it got?
It's got biological atoms in the molecules in the atmosphere.
I was going to say RNA, doesn't it? Doesn't it have RNA?
It's got something that's living there. That's all I know. Somebody's home, and whatever's there, my bet is, wants to be here. And all these little people that are out there all over the place, all over the world, that are playing games, and they think that they're answering to something that they're not answering to, right? They think they're playing with God, right? When they finally figure it out, when we're all dead, unless somebody stops these idiots, they're going to have a new master. And I'm willing to bet I know where that master comes from. And anybody that does anything to these people, I really don't care. Because they're not on the side of humanity. We got company.
Oh, without a doubt, we've got company. I even say...
Yeah, but you understand what? Yeah, but there's a difference. What I just did is I gave you a reasonable intellectual construct, rational, as to where the hell to go to look. And by the way, there's also something else that's out there.
So we should aim all our missiles at Titan.
Well, I don't laugh too hard, because if you go on the net and you look at the ring makers of Saturn, you may not want to do that directly. Because here's the problem. Okay, the guy that put up the what do you call it? The Pioneer series, a couple of them, 15 or whatever, I can't remember which numbers. He wrote a book, and he had access to all the pictures, the pretty pictures that came out of Saturn. And it turns out there was a ship that he happened to photograph a number of times, and he figured out it was a grading table out there for these guys mining on a stellar basis. And it was the ship that you want to go take shots at is 1,000 miles long, and it came out of the cloud to meet the satellite that they were sending by. So unless you can take out a 1,000-mile long ship, which I don't remember seeing, I don't have that in my park in my driveway. You might think twice, because anybody that can move, we can have a hard time moving a shuttle, let alone something that's 1,000 miles long.
I've got a friend on Facebook. He religiously keeps track of what's going on in the sun, and he has what he's called sun harvesters, and he's put up information that these craft, whatever it is, and I've seen it. I've seen the videos of these things coming into the coronal ejection of the coronal mass of the sun, coming right up to the edge and taking a piece of it and flying off with it. And I was like, okay, well, where are they going and what are they doing with it? And then later on, I find out that it's alleged that they're taking it to the rings of Saturn. Okay. I don't know.
Seriously, some of the stuff. Okay, there's them. Yeah, somebody's harvesting. I have not seen the particular, but I also know that there were ships that were brought in with 1,112. Were seen purportedly by people that I knew that were purportedly in contact with Sandia and others that say, yeah, we got out of that one because somebody lent us a hand, okay? And what do you call it? We had a conversation on that offline, so you know what my take is. I don't want to deal with that tonight, okay?
Sure.
Nothing personal, Peter.
Not at all.
But anyways, okay, and you know what my take is, but I don't want to muddy the waters. All right, but anyways, getting back. Okay, so we got that contingent. All right, that's just one. See, it's kind of like dealing with the Middle East. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We've all heard that one, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, the thing of it isn't that anyone loves us. It's more like there's enough of them, if they gang up on you, kind of like what Obama, who's trying to do with us in the Middle East, just to getting rid of our armies for us, so then he can come in and enslave us. But anyways, it's kind of like that kind of situation. All right. Now, okay, let's go back to the Sirius Star Group. Okay. Now, okay. What the heck is it? I can't think of the name of the book. The one about with sub-Saharan Africa, the Dogon. The Dogon knew the Sirius star system was a dual way back when, before anybody else did. And it was discovered, at least, it was made known in some books that some French anthropologists wrote about it. And this was before it was discovered, which was discovered originally by the Naval Observatory, the head of that at the time, in, I believe that's in Washington or Maryland or something. Anyways, they actually figured it out using interference patterns that it was a dual binary, if you will. Anyways, so this thing that nobody could know because they didn't have the optics to do it, which they figured they inferred it based on an interference pattern in based on photography, these guys knew. Okay? Way back when. But that's not good enough. I want to give you something that'll drive you nuts.
Okay.
Okay. I want to give you 150 million prisoners of war in current time. Okay?
Well, we could almost expand that to about 7 billion prisoners of war and take the whole population into consideration.
True.
Well, let me explain where I'm going with this. The Mahabharata, right, and the Indians have a group called the Dalit, okay, which are the untouchables. Okay, in current day time, there's 150 million of them, okay?
Yeah, they're a caste system unto themselves.
Yeah, but you know why they're what started the whole problem? What made them a caste system? What was the feature of their lives way back when that put them into that group?
Boy, you got me scratching my head. I have a feeling it's connected to the Sanskrit wars between the gods.
The Mahabharata and Hindu Vedic texts are very explicit. They are not considered human. They were originally supposed to have a a bucket a bucket in front of them so the spit should never touch the earth. Okay? They're supposed to have a broom behind them so nobody should know where they ever went. Okay? And this started 100,000 years ago. So these people have been prisoners of war for 100,000 years. They actually have a separate police force. They have a Dalit police. Okay? Talk about transgenerational, right? They have been serially raped for over 100,000 years by the good Brahmins. If the girls complain, they chop off their legs and arms and they make them into a baseball diamond. This is not a joke. 30% of their DNA in current time is now Brahmin. You like it already?
Yeah. Now, what
Where
is...
did they go?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, no, go ahead.
Where did they come from?
That's what I was going to ask. That's why I said go ahead. Where did they come from?
They came from the Syrian star group, the Sirius star group.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the Lord and Master of the Sirius star group, according to the Quran?
That I don't know.
Allah.
Ah, okay.
How
And
did
hence,
he become the Lord and Master of the people of Islam? What did he do?
Besides starting a new religion?
What he did is he defeated the Ad, the AAD, in the Quran.
Okay.
The
I'm not an
Ad
expert in the
are
Quran,
the
so...
giants. The Ad are the giants. When you look at the gates over there and you see the big gate and the small gate, the little gate you can run and I can walk through, and then you see the big gate with the big statues. Odd. All the super huge statues, 28 foot, whatever, odd. AAD. This planet has been, okay, we are in the middle between these two galaxies that are kicking the heck out of each other. It's kind of like us being transported to be right next to China. Okay? And all of a sudden, all the generals decide, they're here. What are they going to do? They're going to kill everybody that they can. What are they doing? We're in the middle between the two, right? We know they fight with each other. What are they going to do? They're going to kick the heck out of everybody around. What are they doing? They're kicking the heck out of everybody around. What do you do? Okay, you see the ships coming through, right? What do? They come in, they tank up with water, they go, they want to get rid of the excess weight. If they got the electromagnetic pumps, the critters get a headache. If they got the mechanical, sushi.
Doesn't sound too pleasant.
You see what I'm saying? Okay,
yeah, and yet, when we look at some of the extreme things that are being talked about, I mean, like with FEMA camps and guillotines and things of that nature, or when you get run down the road of where do 500,000 children disappear to every year, they're all black holes that are just...
They could be in Project Pegasus.
They might be on Mars now. But you know, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we occasionally hear little tidbits about. It's like when I was investigating where 500,000 kids went every year, I got a warning: don't go down that path. If you do, watch your back because they're going to come after you. And it has to do.
But you have to understand. Okay, you have to understand why.
Well,
you know why. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you know why. Because, okay, what it comes down to is, it isn't that it's organized crime, it's crime that is allowed under certain auspices.
Let me try to catch up here just a little bit. So we've got life forms in Sirius that are against us, and we have life forms on Titan that are basically against us.
And Saturn. And Saturn itself, the rings, that is a mining operation.
I see. Okay. All right.
That is a mining operation. That is a grading table. That's what that is. You know, like a dime. You know, they have the jeweler has his grading table. Okay, that's how they're separating. Well, this, that, and the other thing.
Overall, what do they want? I mean, are they looking to enslave us, or are they looking to take over, or do they just want our resources?
Well, it depends. There's different ones. Okay, and it's not one thing. Okay, to some of them, it's like, come on, you already know the answer to some of these. Everything you just said. Some of us, it's like it's chow, right?
Yeah.
That's why, okay, why do you have to have a space-ready coffin?
A space-ready coffin?
You mean the FEMA coffins?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like outer space.
Four-seaters.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. It's serious. It's okay.
Oh, I know.
Why do you need that? Okay, look. You're dealing with a higher technology. Okay. Now the thing is, okay, why do you think we can't have electromagnetic drive units? You can have electromagnetic drive units. They already got them. The thing is, it's like, okay, but you're not supposed to know that. Oops. All right. What happens if you come up with somebody tells you, never mind, I shouldn't go there. Let's just say if you come up with something, if you put something on the net or on the radio station or an advertisement. Okay, I'm not going to say what it is. Once upon a time, I put up 11 words on rents as an advertisement. Guess what happened? I got Tesla, okay, for what a UFO was. Okay? What do you get? You want to know what you get? You get somebody that used to work, I won't say who, okay, just call it Teller's programmer, gives you a call, wants to know how far along you are. Look, I'm not trying to get us off the planet. All I'm trying to do is save us. Okay? If we get us down to the numbers, it's like different people say, okay, like the Georgia Guidestones, you get everybody down to 5 million, right? And you put them all in the city, right? Okay, they already have, what do you call it, planes with handoff. Okay, you know, like they got the Predators and all that shit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guess what the next generation is? Remember how they painted everybody's doorstep, right?
Yeah.
With the lasers when they did the census.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as an airborne, automated, 6-cartridge, high-explosive, RV setup with handoff by one operator, flights thereof, over 3,000 per flight. Maybe even as many as 30, depending on what they finally end up with. Visiting a city near you, disposable. I call that extreme prejudice.
I call it absolutely insane. I honestly do.
Well, DARPA paid for it, and you can find it on Gizmag in the military section. Have a party. Take that, tie it to a qubit, you got yourself Skynet. Voila.
So what is the solution?
If I can stay alive, okay, which after tonight, and well, you know some of the other thing I was thinking of, Peter, which I keep me alive and maybe I can keep you alive. Okay, I know what to do.
We'll send you positive energy.
No, positive energy. Look, what I did, I need resources, and I'm not asking people for money, etc. If I get enough resources, I can do a couple of things. Okay, I did the patent thing. Never mind, I should shut up. I was dumb. Okay, I did something which they tell me it's all right. SBA. All right, why don't I say it? I figured out something in terms of computers for the next supercomputer. Okay? SBA in my neck of the woods says it isn't whether a question of whether or not I'm a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. I'm a billionaire. The question is how many. The problem is, can it make it through? I made it through the patent office. It's supposed to be published soon enough. And I hope I didn't kill myself as to getting it public. Actually, give me positive vibes on that, please, because, okay, if I get that, then I can help a lot of people. All right? What it is, look, all the people out there that think you can do stuff just by sharing stuff, it's a wonderful thing. I'm a B-school kind of guy, among other strange things. Guess what? Without resources, I can't pay people. Okay, I can tell you what to do on some of it. Let's give it a shot, okay? Let me tell you some of the stuff that I do, what I offer, because I think you can understand some of the stuff I've said already is pretty cool, yes?
Absolutely.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have our agreement.
Cool. Okay, let's do bird flu, okay, or whatever, viruses, okay? Because you know the little buggers, the Crown and the Fearless Leader put in a special order and got them built, and then turned it into an aerosol. Nobody's supposed to notice. Even Scientific Americans going, what the? Okay, say hypothetically you got yourself in an area where you got the problem. Okay? What you got to do is, okay, during the time of the Black Death, the King of France was having a problem. Everybody's dying around him. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, what happens is baubles from the court, people got buried, kept showing up from beyond the grave or from within the grave, reappearing in the court. So what happened was there was, the guy put up a number of guards around the place, found the miscreants, turns out they were herbalists, stuck them over, basically made them have a really bad day down in the dungeon. Okay? In other words, this was, like jewels from the nobility, okay, reappearing miraculously. So he tortured it out of them, and it turns out there's a substance out there that can be made called thieves' oil, which acts as a prophylactic against viruses, including the Black Death, which seems to be rearing its head again. So that keeps you from getting it if you don't already have it, because it's a complex mix that disables the receptor sites as to getting through it as the viruses. Say you now have it. Okay?
I'd rather not, but go ahead.
Okay, it turns out all of this stuff has to have different, what do you want to call it? Okay, it communicates chemically through your body. Okay? It turns out if you use activated charcoal, and I'm not a doctor, by the way, this is just research I've done. I'm a researcher among other strange things, right? Activated charcoal most viruses will fall in the little holes, because basically what you're doing, what makes it activate is you're taking like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid, or there's a base, I can't remember the name of it, and you're soaking it in there, so it makes all these little itty bitty holes. They're microscopic, okay? And the viruses fall in and can't get out. And the communication chemicals that they use fall in and they can't get out. But the large biological proteins and the rest of it keep on trucking. They go by. Now, okay, you can only use it so many days in a row, because if you use it over 3, it starts interfering with your bile. So you do a couple of days on, a couple of days off. 3 at the max, and give your body rest. I usually do 1 day on, take 3 off. Okay? And what it does is will arrest the ability for the little buggers to communicate with each other, which puts them out of business. Because one thing, they're like a plant. See, what it is, okay, we are actually what do you call it? We're a fungus. We are oil-based as well, all right? And a lot of these things, if they're of that nature, they're some of the toughest things for our bodies to get rid of. But anyways, what it does is this stuff acts like a filter and gets rid of the stuff that these little viruses, et cetera, need to be able to communicate and to keep growing as to how they move. They actually have a form of intelligence of sorts, which is a whole topic for another night. Okay? Anyways, so if you do those 2 things, one of them, retroactively, after the fact, I should say, not retroactively, you can stop most viruses. So I'm going to make the assumption, which I can be wrong, which the first one is called thieves oil, because that's what they named it. You can find it on the net. It's not cheap. I just probably drove the price sky high. You can also make it yourself. There's different formulations for it, et cetera. And most likely it'll work against most of the stuff that they could possibly throw at you, particularly as an aerosol. And more of the same with the second one, you have to do vitamin replacement therapy, and that also includes magnesium. And by the way, most people, particularly girls, et cetera, when they're doing the calcium thing, et cetera, they need to have magnesium too. But nobody ever tells you is magnesium is the centerpiece for all plant life. In other words, photosynthesis is based on magnesium. Mm-hmm. And 90% plus of the people don't have it, or they just have a dearth of it. And it also helps in the distribution of the, the calcium in the body. Okay, that's something this is the kind of crap that I do. Okay, I try to save people's lives. That's what I try to do. Okay, there's something else I want to tell you about saving people's lives too. I'm trying to think what it was. It's like, how much do I say?
Well, while you're gathering your thoughts, for those people who would like to check out thieves oil, you can find it online. Actually, if you go to Amazon.com, you can find it right there. And it's not cheap, but it's not super expensive. You just don't get a whole lot for it. And they do have it listed as a Germ Fighter Synergy Essential Oil Blend. So undiluted, therapeutic, and what can I say? It's expensive enough, but hey, if it saves your life.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a break here. Always tune in because you just never know. And, Richard Dunn is with us. That is me and Peter Kling. And I understand what he's saying a lot better this time around. It's one of those things, I don't know. I think the other night I got so preoccupied, it was hard for me to follow. But this time around, I really do understand where you're going. I think this is very valuable information, and I appreciate you being with us, Richard. But we got about another 16, 17 minutes to go. So it's all yours.
When you're ready, I'll take us on the rocket sled.
Take us. I'm ready.
Yeah. Richard, before we go, I just wanted to. You brought up that the two things about the thieves' oil and the activated charcoal. How do you take your activated charcoal?
Well, there's two things I want. Okay, on the thieves' oil, I just usually you can get your own little what do you call it, like a pouch or something. You can get it off of eBay or whatever, and you can make your own. The other thing is on the activated charcoal. Myself, you can get it either tabular or you can get it as what do you call it, the little capsules. I happen to just use capsules. But the thing is, only use it like a couple of days, 1, 2, 3 days, but then you have to lay off. And you always have to do vitamin replacement therapy. And particularly if you're using chemicals, if you're using biologicals like the oranges and the rest of it, you won't have so much of a problem. But the synthetic, it will get stuck in the little holes with everything else and it'll get washed out of your body. It will turn your poo black. Okay? I am not a doctor. Be aware, I am not a doctor. I don't know what your conditions are. I am not trying to diagnose anybody. No freaking way.
This is a detox situation. It's not a continued therapy, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but if you can use it. Okay, I have psoriasis, and I find it has a tendency to mitigate against psoriasis to some extent, at least. Okay, which is a whole other topic for a whole other night. But the thing is, it does seem to keep away a lot of bugs, particularly in the winter and the rest of the stuff. In other words, you don't seem to get the credit that you would otherwise get. It will take out heavy metals, so they tell me, as to the different research that I've done. Understand, I'm a researcher. I am not a doctor. Okay, if you haven't figured it out, I am a researcher. I make no claims to being a doctor. I'm not a lawyer either. Okay, no way.
Now you said something about a rocket sled ride, so we've got some time. Let's get on the sled and ride.
Okay. Well, last time I was talking about China, I was talking about the dam. Okay, and I was talking about it changed the axis of the Earth about 160 miles, and I forget, if you look up on the net, you find regular scientists from the rest of it, they all agree that they changed it with the dam. Okay. And what I was saying is, okay, the Chinese, that is, right, have created a field between the crust and the, the core or the mantle. And what it's doing is it's liquefying and causing all the earthquakes and the rest of it. And this is why certain people, bad people, want to frack. Because, okay, if you know there are earthquakes coming and you want to maximize the damage, what do?
Till the soil.
It up.
Till the soil. Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes sense now. And I've seen, as a matter of fact, was it about a year ago, there was a 4-point-something earthquake in Italy. It was like one of the first earthquakes that they've had in this area in eons, and I've got several people died in it, and they linked it back to fracking.
Yeah, but okay, it's not just the fracking; it's the other piece too. Which, by the way, this is also causing the liquefaction underneath the supervolcanoes, which also includes Yosemite, which is the reason why the state legislature out there, I forget what, Colorado, etc., they're making like there's no tomorrow. Okay, so there's certain areas they're making like, don't worry about it, because if you're here, you're dead. And if you notice, you'll also notice that the tsunamis are picking up, which basically that's earthquakes under the water, and also volcanoes are picking up under the water. And they're showing up in places they never knew. Well, what it is, okay, this is what I want. Now, understand that the Chinese, before I go there, the Chinese always have a problem with their population because that's because they kill all the females, and the rest of it is the babies. So if they don't kill off the men in war, which they're always trying to have more of them because, okay, they throw them in the line, to make everybody else miserable around them, Okay, but now they have a situation where they want to get rid of a fair chunk of their population, so they place half of their population downwind from the dam, which basically means below the dam. So when the dam goes, which is set to go as a 7.0 Richter, I happen to know that. The dam is 460 miles prox long, and it's about 60 miles wide. And it's, okay, because it's water, it goes according to the, the tectonic plate lines. Rivers do that. And because most rivers go north-south or south-north, depending on which hemisphere you're in, okay, they tend to run just that way. Okay, well, it turns out that means that the area that's, it's created a cantilever, like a lever that goes out under to the South China Sea towards Japan, etc., which, by the way, Fuji and the rest of it have been going off. They're going off all over the place. See, once I understood this, I could predict everything else. So I actually preceded, right, what everybody else did because I understood what the hell they were doing. It's not hard to predict, is it? Makes sense, doesn't it, right?
If you see you got a bald tire on the car, it doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to predict that it's going to blow soon if you don't go change it. But you got to be smart enough to go look to see that there's a problem there to begin with.
Right, but here's the kicker. I knew I had them when they did one thing. They stopped building below 3,500 feet. And every place they're buying in, the most stable continent for this purpose is basically, Africa. Okay, and the other thing that's funny is...
Yeah, and now the plot thickens.
They start buying land any place that's over 4,000 plus feet. And they prefer the land that's even a lot higher than that. Okay, they start building up in Antarctica. Okay? And that makes sense too, because if you figure you want to shift the world to 40 degrees, right, which is what there's some numbers out there that it appears to be, right, you double that, and you got, well, what you call, I don't want to go statistics, I was going to say 2 standard deviations, but anyways, in other words, you got 40 twice, so you figure all your fallout as the wave action you're going to have is between that, which leaves plus or minus 5 degrees on the side, on the top, and the bottom of the globe, and that's where they want to be. Do you like it already?
Yeah, so Antarctica isn't going to be frosty anymore.
No, but what it is if you rotate it right, you end up in the old situation that you had way back when. You turn everything up to about 72 degrees because Antarctica is now sitting most likely, depending on how many times they do or how far they go with it, someplace in what is now the Atlantic or the Pacific, depending on how you want to look at it. You end up with one world ocean, which basically you got the setup of Atlantis.
Uh-huh. So now this is starting to make a little bit more sense. Atlantis may not have sunk; it may have rotated.
Well, okay, now it gets a little, but the temperature and the rest of it, you end up with a tropical world. Except, guess what? They want to do the deep freeze because of all the crap that they're expecting to come in regarding the CMEs, et cetera, and what I call this stuff is guerrilla engineering. In other words, the people, I gotta say it. You can shoot me later, I don't care. Dumber than shit. Forgive me.
I would tend to agree with that about 50% of the population, considering they still believe FEMA's going to help them. Oh, okay.
I was talking about the engineering, but I mean, absolutely clueless. They're not there they are segmented. They're not there because of what they know. They're there because of what they don't know. And it's intentional. That's the problem. It's not the best nor the brightest. It's the God help you. That's what you got. I've seen it, including the different ones that work on the reactors and the rest of it. Absolutely freaking clueless. They don't see it coming at all. Even when the stuff is blasting off the sides of the sun, the rest of, hey man, pass the doobie.
Yeah.
I want to. I want to puke.
I understand that. I was talking, a friend on Facebook wrote me earlier today and just made mention about, she talks to people that she knows and they look at her like she's crazy.
Well, let me, before we go, can I do one thing?
Sure.
Because it's something I really want to do here. Okay. This is what I want to say. Putin, do not fight against the United States. The one you should be fighting against is the one that's killing you based on what I just said. Any Soviet that's connected back to them overseas, etc., bring it on home. Take a good look at China. Do you want all your people dead? Now, The Hague. When do we start prosecuting? This should be enough to reverse anything that anybody owes, which basically means that all U.S. dollars should be held in abeyance that are in relation to the Chinese. For current, past, dead, and future projections by all countries of the world should now begin to make claims through The Hague on China. I'm demanding it. This is murder. Under their book, published in Panama and also in the, in Peking, we have documentation that allows them to declare unrestricted warfare, is the name of the book, by the way, upon the West, this is actually taught in our, military academies, whereby the Chinese believe that it is not necessary to declare war against capitalist countries. This alone, based on the earthquakes that we are having, etc., until that dam is removed, anybody that dies based on any earthquake should be laid at their gate. Period.
Wow. Interesting statement. Interesting statement. And you know what? If that did happen, boy, there goes the China economy.
Well, you got a better way to take care of it? Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. You know, when you look at the situation, you got to investigate then, okay, here they built this huge dam. It's the largest dam on the face of the earth. We're talking about the Three Gorges Dam. And if you're right, I haven't looked at the tectonic plates there, but typically, yes, rivers do follow tectonic movement. When the mountains go up, something's driving them, and in the valleys, you're going to have water.
Well, and that's just one factor, but at the same time, we still should be throwing stones at the American government, because look at the chemtrails, look at the fluoride in the water. I look at all the things they're doing too. So we got evil around the entire table.
When I'm saying, but it isn't going to matter if the other. Okay, you're not even going to get the chance on that, because what's going to happen is, if you ever see the movie 2012, which I refuse to watch, but I know enough about what it is, I refuse to make that, part of my reality. But what I'm saying to you is, okay, all the people, you've had a number of people that have had major drowning deaths worldwide, all sorts of earthquakes going off with dead. Every one of those families are entitled to compensation from the Chinese government. And it's also undeclared war, which what I just did, which let me say it another way. Mr. Obama, I demand your action.
Well, hopefully he'll hear this. But yeah, you're right. You know,
what it does is
he's done nothing.
It changes the dynamic as well between the Soviet Union and the United States. It also changes the dynamic between China and the Soviet Union. Because all of the stuff that's going on in the atmosphere regarding the, the melting of the, methane, etc., is directly attributable to everything I just said. In other words, I just wrote national policy.
Yeah.
Now, if they would put it into action.
Well, the problem is
if you don't put it into action, let me say this. If you don't put it into action, what are you going to lose? You don't have a tomorrow. You don't have a country. Okay, what is going to happen? All right? Look around the world at, okay, what the heck is the name of that site? The Extinction Protocol, though I hate the name of the site. I really hate the name of the site. If you go to that, they keep a list as to what the heck's coming out of the, what do you call it? The earthquakes and the rest of it. It's crazy. I knew everything that they were talking about is like the stuff that you were talking about, Peter. This stuff has been predicted. There's a guy down in Australia. I can't think, his last name is Smith. He used to have a site by the name of Alfred. The guy's a great guy. Talked to him a number of times. He actually had company people figure out which company, right? They got me thrown out of there because I was talking about how the heck to stop the stuff way back when. And I didn't know it, that the people do, it was funny stuff maybe. He seems to think so. I have no idea. All right. Anyways, it's about extremely low frequency radiation. This is way back. And we were watching the stuff and we already knew way before anybody, all these different ones, everybody says we know now. We and other guys were following this. Okay. Matter of fact, these guys actually know how to make a mountain. You know how you make a mountain? You do like you did the salt flats, and you put uranium or thorium in the salt bath, and guess what happens? When all the cosmic rays that they're expecting to come in hits the whole thing, going up.
Nice.
This is why they wanted the salt flats, because if they put it in there, that's the next edge of the United States.
So that song about oceanfront property in Arizona might be true?
Not might be.
Whoa, that's an interesting, and that's an oldie. That's a country and western song. I forget who did it, but that's got to be like at least 15 years old.
We got a couple minutes left, guys. So if we could sum it up for tonight.
Well, I hope I didn't freak anybody out, but it's like, if you actually look into what I'm talking about, go to your Wikipedia and the rest of it. Go to all your different stuff. Look at the change in the axis. And look at how many people have attributed to the Chinese and that damn dam. And by the way, half of their population goes under if that thing goes. And that thing is going to go. So you're looking at a country that's committed murder against its own people, potentially. Actually, you might as well say it. It's future murder.
Well, they've already pretty much carried that out with their own population by culling as many female babies as they have.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, okay, when that dam goes, about 400 million people are going to go with it.
Yeah, I don't have any argument there. I would totally agree. So.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you. Yeah, but the thing is, a government, it's like our government. A government is not supposed to destroy and kill its own people. The only reason they're doing it is because they don't know what to do, because they're engineering. I can't use that word. Guerrilla engineering. And it's also intentional because who they think is God that they're answering to is a problem. My take, what it is, okay, the different ones they're answering to are not God. There's also a couple other groups that, bottom line, it's the usual suspects. And I'm sure you know the reference.
Absolutely.
Well, Richard, we're down to about a minute here, and I want to give you a chance to finish and get out any information you like, and we'll have you back again because there's a lot more to talk about. But, yeah, go ahead.
Well, all I want to say is this. Peter, Michael, thank you for the forum. I hope I didn't abuse it too badly. I hope I didn't cuss too much. I just want to say thank you. I mean, I'd like to talk to you later offline and get a, what do you call it, a dissection, analysis, whatever.
Sure.
I'm still learning. I'm not used to this format, et cetera. You understand, I hope.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you both.
All right, Richard. Well, thank you very much also, and you've done a fine job. None of us were used to it. We had to get used to it. So you keep coming back, and you'll get the twist. But I thank you.
I would like to try to sell a couple of books as well, because I got other stuff that's in some of that too. But anyways, I'll shut up now. And I say thank you again. And I guess it's time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Richard. And Peter, thank you very much as well.
one thing I did want to say. We talked about the Oort cloud, right, on the edge of the solar system, and all the different objects that were getting dragged through, and how eventually they'd end up impinging on the Earth, and then we went into the whole thing of the bad jobs of history, and we were talking about how they could, you could sinter the peat in the bogs, and that was the ability to give the armor of ancient times that was metallic. Okay,
correct.
and that I didn't make at that time, which the reason why I'm bringing this up again, is that that means that the solar system, when it gets hit, the sun gets hit. Okay, I started to go into the whole idea of what iron does, okay, because it's the center of the fission-fusion curve. Okay, what's happening is our sun is pulsing now. Okay, and the reason it's pulsing is all of the metallic, the heavy metals, like I said, iron and above, are being absorbed into the sun that are striking it. And they're falling down through the sun's atmosphere in the body of the sun because they're the heaviest, so they're going to sink to the core. Okay, the way you get a nova, all right, now remember, all of these things from the Oort cloud, that big mass of iron nickel debris that's on the outside edge of the solar system, right, are put there. You have to understand, they're put there by novas. So the sun, what happens is the sun goes nova, collapses, because what happens is the gamma rays that cause the nuclear reactions with the hydrogen, helium, and if it doesn't have anything, it keeps going upscale until it hits iron, and then it basically goes boom. And we get the heavier metals because they're what happens when you get that, light speed kind of blast as it comes out as the sun disintegrates.
So what you're saying then is once upon a time our sun went nova, created the Oort cloud all the way out, and as it collapsed back in, left all the gases and debris and whatnot, which formed large giants, and then the smaller rocky planets.
Cycled again. So it's
That's
cycled.
Interesting.
Sure. So here we are. It's now what I've understood is that our sun won't go supernova for like billions of years, and what they're saying that there's not enough mass in the sun currently in order for it to do that. I don't know. I'm not an astronomer, and if it went supernova once, maybe there's not enough mass in it. I don't know.
Okay, remember, you have to have, the gammas can't get by the iron or heavier. That's the center of the, what do you call it, fusion-fission curve. So what it is, okay, the time that you had the sunspot 1112, just prior to that, okay, every time they have a little something they don't want you to see,
We are back. Hello.
Here we are. I was listening. I had my microphone muted, just so in case the puppies bark.
Yeah, it was my fault.
So it's like a rush to get it back. Flip the switch when you introduce me.
I had it on Do Not Disturb. That was from earlier while I was working, and I totally forgot to switch it over.
Yeah, when you don't do that, you don't get any noises that anybody's calling.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry about that, Richard, and welcome.
Oh, good. I thought it was me. I kept trying. It's like I couldn't get spit. But anyways.
Oh, we're glad you're here now. I'll tell you, Richard, when I chat with you, you make all my brain cells work. And for somebody to do that, I have to give you a little respect for that, because not too many people can do it. However, for the general audience that might actually find some of what you say overwhelming, if you can put the context in a matter where people can actually understand how it applies and why it's important in their lives, we may be able to gain a whole lot more ground and understanding here, because you've got some brilliant concepts, and you're involved in so many different things, which, interestingly enough, are all tied back into one simple concept of pretty much how everything works. And that's what I find. When you go back to the simplicity of it, it's like, yep, whatever formula that I was working on back in my chemistry days, it was like, let's use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. You got 30, 40 ingredients in there. Which one's giving you a problem? You know? So you want to keep your formulations as simple as possible, yet achieve your end result. And whenever you start over-engineering or over-complicating a system, breakdown is sure to follow. But when you go back to the most simple understanding, it's Axum's razor. The most simple explanation, simple logical explanation must be the truth.
I know. The one thing about it is, I wish the people, okay, for some of the stuff I'm going to say, I wish they actually need the background for what I said last time around on some of it, unless I try to pull through, you know what I mean? Because there were things that needed to be said. I mean, it's such a wide body of work, okay?
Yeah.
And if you miss a step, you're kind of screwed, you know? It's just the way it is. But we're going to try anyways. So some things I wanted to talk about this evening. Oh boy. See, up to the time I didn't think anything of it, and I didn't keep it. You know, I make mistakes too. Okay, a lot of times there's artifacts that's left over. In other words, you won't believe it. They airbrush. No, it's true.
Really?
No. Oh, I know. It's
sacrilege.
Hard. Exactly. Yes. The high priest of NASA, baloney, salami, their mantra. Yes, I know. But anyways, okay, so this is what's basically going on, okay? There's more stuff to this, too. I got to think about what the heck I'm going to say here, because, okay, we talked about last week that the sun is alive. And we went through the whole thing with Pele, and we talked about that, too, as to it being alive. And we went through the piece where they talk about the, talking to the sun, etc., which basically you can get a yes or no answer. Okay, which I'm going to do something. Oh, yeah, we also talked about the squaring of the circle, which is that thing I did. All right, so if you don't mind, I'm going to throw some of that out there. Okay? And what it is, okay, you were talking about being, you're going to shut off your mics because you didn't want to hear the dog barking and the rest of it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, well, you got a dog, right? And you pat the dog, right?
Absolutely.
And you pat the dog on the top of the head, right?
Yeah, sometimes he doesn't like that too much.
Okay. Well, okay, is it fair to say that most people know what chakras are?
Yeah. Well, most people that would listen to this station probably would.
Okay. Okay, should I give an explanation or not as to what a chakra is?
No, just short, just for those who may not know, it would be better to be educated as opposed to not all of a sudden get lost in the conversation.
Oh, good. Okay. Human body is electrical in nature and has different fields that go with it. Okay? It's actually got the power of a small light bulb. Probably about 100, well, not that small, probably about 100 watts or so, depending. If you run, it gets more, you start doing the math, it gets a little interesting. Okay? And that's before you do anything funky. As to playing with your fields, etc. Okay, so you actually have some power there, and it's delivered by your food energy, etc. When you pat Doggy on the top of the head, you're patting his chakra. So basically what you're doing is you're bringing Doggy along spiritually. Furballs too. Nobody gets left behind.
Okay.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, well, it goes along with scripture, so what can I say? It says all souls go back.
They take the Soho and the rest of the satellites all offline. Okay, so the stereographic imaging and all that stuff is all poof. Oh yeah, we're on maintenance mode right now. There was a Venus-sized strike on the backside of the sun. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
Yes. I've seen a lot of strange things going in, around, and through the sun here in the past year.
Yes, and most of that stuff, if it's coming from the Earth cloud, it gets dislodged because remember, that's between us and the outside of the solar system, particularly around the ecliptic, which is the equator of the solar system, right? Okay, if that stuff ends up in the sun, right, which that's a bad thing because then it starts doing the Roomba. And
yeah, well, you're throwing iron into it, and iron is what you can't break down a star past iron. That's pretty much the end of the star's life.
Yes, and what happens is it also acts as a shield to reflect back in and concentrate the the gamma rays into the sun. Okay, which make the problem is it accelerates the curve of expansion of whatever's left in there as it tries to go up from from hydrogen all the way up to it hits iron and then it goes pop. So when you saw a couple of weeks ago, people were talking about that, a chunk of the sun flew off.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you know why. So what it is this, okay, not to be too crass about it, the sun is puking. It can't eat this. So what it's trying to do is trying to do anything to get it out of there.
I see.
Nice.
So a chunk of the sun actually did.
Oh yeah.
Did come out. Okay.
Yeah, they actually showed that on the morning fake news. Interestingly enough, when it happened, it was like 2 days after it happened, and they said, "Oh, look at this." But you're okay. You know, they said it's an infrared picture of the sun, and the reason why you don't see this dark area is because the plasma blew off, but it's not coming toward us, so you don't have to worry. And it's cooler there, and it looks darker. Yeah, well, I guess it's a pretty damn big piece of the sun that blew off. It was at least a third of it.
Yeah, I seen that, and I thought, is that possible? Well, apparently, it is.
Oh yeah, but what I'm telling you is, I'm giving you the process by which it happened.
Okay.
That nobody, in other words, to my knowledge, the stuff I've been telling you doesn't exist in any of the books.
No, the only thing that you do is occasionally see anomalies from either stereo A or B or from Soho, and it's like, what in the world's going on there? And then, like you say, all of a sudden, the satellites go down for maintenance.
Right, but sometimes you can pick up the art. Okay, what I was able to do way back when.
Thank God, and the qualification for that is it's got to have blood running through it somehow. So there you go.
Okay, so my point is, if the stars are alive, okay, and people I know that have been into the stuff as to doing the remote viewing, claim that there are multiple entities in the black holes in the center of the galaxy, etc. So they claim that they're alive, which I don't have that ability, by the way. So I'm taking other people's say so, and some of the people I'm talking about, right? Strangely enough, that's another story. I got actually tied to some people who had been involved in MK Ultra, but they were all under contract, and nobody knew that the other ones in the same group. They were actually sitting on stage. I figured out that they were all working on different aspects of the whole thing, because I knew a number of them. But anyways, they were all tied together. So, and they're the ones that are doing this whole thing, that they're also tied to the remote viewing, a lot of them. So, it turns out they happen to believe this, okay? And if you look at it, you have a continuity. Now, the universe, okay, is considered to be, it's got its dark side, it's got its white side. Both of them are considered to be God by a number of the religions. Okay? It turns out it's a duality. One of the things is the people who usurp a lot of the religions, which I won't go into any names, I won't mention Rome, I just won't mention a lot of them. Okay? like to set it up their way. I also won't mention the different crown heads, which I don't know any who do this, and other people actually control both sides of the game as to the good side and the bad side of this duality, as to what they show us in our religious institutions. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, there's this good and this bad thing that's going on. And one of the things I found out when I was, I ended up working for McDonnell Douglas as a kid. When I was in my 20s, I spent a winter without winter down in Titusville, Florida. And I found out that the ancients believed that the stars, I got a hold of this book. I don't even remember the name of it, but what it was, it had all the names of the stars, translated from the Aramaic and the Hebrew, etc. Sanskrit, actually, it was. And they told a story. But the thing, I don't even remember most of the story, but it had a virgin and it had all the stuff that everybody talks about it's supposed to have. But the thing that I found most interesting about it was the variable stars were supposed to be the bad stars. And the ones that were constant were supposed